Sixth inning. Latin America. Baseball in paradise. The crowds were big and the fans red hot. Schoolboy Johnny Taylor, pitcher, New York Cubans. Many ball players in the Negro Leagues came from Latin America. Baseball was real popular down there in Cuba, Mexico, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Venezuela. It was so warm, they could play baseball all year long. And they did. Those fellas became quite good, and some had strong teams. Quite a few of those boys could have made a fortune if they had played in the majors. Martin Dihigo was one of them. Baseball came to him just as natural and easy as breathing. He could play every position, even pitch, had natural grace like Joe DiMaggio. He was really something to watch. Jose Mendez was a great pitcher and played all positions too. Another fella, Cristobal Torriente, he was known as the Black Christy Mathewson. They say he could hit the ball over a mountain. If he had been a couple shades lighter, he could have played in the majors. Major league owners would take a Cuban before they would take a Negro. Guess they didn't know slave ships stopped down in those islands too. Some of the Latin ball players didn't want to play in the United States anyway. They didn't want to leave their home, and who could blame them? It was nice down there. It was always warm, and those Latin women sure were pleasing to the eye. And they loved Americans. Down there, Negroes were treated just the same as anyone else, the way we were supposed to be treated. There was no such thing as segregation. We could stay at any hotel and eat at any restaurant. And if you were a ball player, a good ball player, they treated you like a king. Kids followed us in the streets asking for autographs. Our pictures would be in the newspaper. The Latin ball club owners paid for our plane tickets, both ways, and put us up in hotels for the whole winter. We could even bring our families if we wanted to. Didn't have to pay for a thing. And we traveled to games by train, not on those old, bouncy, rickety buses. We only had to play about 3, maybe 4 games a week, mostly on the weekends. That was heaven compared to the Negro Leagues. The rest of the time, we would go fishing, go to a cantina, or hang out in those plazas, do some girl watching. In Mexico, we would even go to bullfights. The Latin Leagues paid well, too, much more than the Negro Leagues. You could fill up a whole trunk full of those pesos. That's why a lot of guys would jump the Negro League teams to go play down there. It drove the Negro League owners crazy. Satchel Paige almost broke up the whole Negro League when he took a bunch of stars down there to play. Wiped out poor Gus Greenlee's Crawfords. The Negro Leagues banned Satch after that. Well, for a little while anyway. But in Latin America, you had to produce. If you didn't play well, they put you right back on the plane and sent you home. 2, maybe 3 bad games, and you were out of there. They were serious about their baseball. Fans were crazy, too. Never seen fans get so excited about a baseball game. Go to town after a bad game, and they wouldn't speak to you. They'd just look at you mean. And man, they went wild if you hit a home run. In Cuba, they would give you beer or money if you hit one. They give you a car in Puerto Rico if you hit 25 of them. That's right, a car, a Hudson. But it was hard to hit home runs in some of those parks. They were huge. Many long balls that should have been home runs were caught. And if you were a pitcher, you couldn't throw at batters like we used to. Hit one of their batters, and they'd throw you in jail. And boy, was it hot down there. You could see the heat coming off the ground. Had to keep moving in the outfield because the heat would burn up through the bottoms of your shoes. Some guys passed out in the field, even in the dugout. It was so hot that the first game of a doubleheader would be in the morning, and the second game wouldn't be till late afternoon when it was cooler. The food was even hotter. If you didn't ask them to take it easy on the spices, they would load that food up, and it would burn right through you. Satchel Paige blamed his stomach miseries on all that hot food that he ate while he was down there. The truth was, it was his rotten teeth. We had some great games playing against those Latin fellas. We were all good friends. We would hang out and play cards after the game or go fishing together. We had a good time. But as soon as we put on those uniforms and walked onto the field, we didn't know each other. They'd spike you like you were a stranger. One time, Ted Page was playing in Cuba. He was fooled on a pitch he thought was a curveball and was hit in the head with the ball. Knocked him out cold. When Page came to, he looked up at the pitcher, and instead of asking him if he was okay, that pitcher said, "You're not hit that one too good." You didn't get any sympathy from them. We were the same way. It was a lot of fun playing down there, but sometimes it would get lonely. They treated us nice, and it was really beautiful. But after a while, we'd get a little homesick. There was always a language barrier, and their cultures were so different from ours. Playing in Latin America was a great way to spend the winter, but ask anybody, it is tough going without a plate of greens, sweet candied yams, and some buttermilk biscuits for 4 months. We knew when it was time to go home.